entering a realm between the hidden and forgotten, a slipstream caught between realities, a secret museum of the esoteric, the private library of shadows, all taking place in a world forged from mystery and caught between logic and myth. You are entering ParaReality.
Hello and welcome to the mysterious world of ParaReality. This is a realm where the blurred lines between what's real and unreal merge together, forming an alternate reality where the truth and fiction become indistinguishable. I'm Sandman, and I'm your host. Well, I've got Easy E in the co-pilot's chair tonight, and we've got a very special guest on the line. We've been working with this person for quite some time now, trying to get all of our schedules lined up to do this interview, and finally, we got everything lined up, all the stars lined up together. Our guest tonight is Miss June Lundgren. She is a psychic medium, nurse, animal communicator, and international author, as well as a television and radio personality. She's going to be telling us all about her work in fighting demons. But to learn more, you'll have to tune in, and find out. But before she gets on the line here, it's time for one of my favorite times of the podcast, email time. So, I try to always take at least one email every episode and answer it, or a comment or something like that. And this comes from all the way in Glasgow, Scotland. This is Paul. And Paul says, "Hey, Sandman, I love the show. I've listened for a couple of years. Keep up the good work." Hey, thanks, Paul, for listening all the way from Glasgow, Scotland. This truly is an international type podcast. I mean, every podcast is available everywhere, right? That's one of the beauties of podcasting and the beauties of the internet, is that you can reach people literally from every corner of the world. And it's always nice to see that, or nice to know, should I say, that I've got people from different countries who listen and who enjoy the podcast. So, Paul, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being a loyal fan and for listening to the podcast. I really appreciate it. And if there's a topic that you'd like to hear me tackle, Paul, just send me an email, sandman@parareality.com, and I'll do my best to see if I can do you proud on that. So that's Paul, all the way from Glasgow, Scotland. Once again, thank you very much, Paul. I really appreciate that. Okay, everybody, it is now time for the interview portion of the show. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time. I've been working with this guest for several weeks about appearing on the show, and I'm very excited to have her. My guest this evening is Miss June Lundgren. She is a psychic medium, demon seer, healer, animal communicator, international author, and nurse. She's appeared on shows like Coast to Coast AM, Midnight in the Desert, Jim Harold's Paranormal Podcast, Ground Zero, and the television show Ghost Adventures, specifically the Graveyards of the Pacific episode, the Norblad Hostel. She was raised by her maternal grandmother, and she grew up communicating with spirits, animals, and angels. She's descended from a long line of women with psychic and spiritual gifts, and she's called a demon seer because she can see, hear, communicate, and remove negative entities. She's been helping people resolve their paranormal problems for over 40 years. Her books include A Medium's Guide to the Paranormal, The Dark Side of the Paranormal, Paranormal Encounters Book 1 and 2, Out of Time, and Demon Seekers, The Journey Begins, Demon Seer, The Awakening. The second book in the Demon Seekers series, Demon Seekers Into the Darkness, was released on the week of January 23rd, earlier this year, 2023. Ms. Lundgren has served in the military, where she trained as a nurse and EMT, and after returning from the military, she's continued to work in the medical field as a nurse and the paranormal field, and as a paranormal investigator and consultant on negative energies. She has done a lot. I'm very happy to have Ms. June Lundgren here on ParaReality. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm good. Happy to be here.
I've been super excited to interview you because of the well, a couple of things. I want to get into it here in a little bit, but the demon seer and the animal communicator, because I happen to be an animal lover, and I've interviewed a pet psychic on the podcast before, and I'm interested in having you see if you can communicate with some of my past pets. I don't know if you can do that or not, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yep.
So, first of all, before we get into the weeds pretty deep here, can I ask you? I know it says that you were raised by your maternal grandmother and that you grew up communicating with spirits and such, but do you know how old you were whenever you first realized that there was something special about you?
Personally, probably about 3 or 4.
Really, that young?
Yeah, it's, before that, my grandmother knew because the animals would sit under my crib.
Oh,
and
wow.
we would have conversations. And she knew that Michael was always present, Michael the Archangel. He was always present. So she had abilities so she could, see and hear. So she knew that I was different. And she knew the moment that she held me in her arms that that I was the one that the family prophecy foretold about. There was a family prophecy from the 1400s
Wow.
that said a female would be born in the family with the ability to see, hear, and destroy demons. And she knew the minute my mom dumped me off on her that I was the one.
And
So she taught me everything she could.
are all the women in your family, do they all have the same gift?
No, each one of them have spiritual gifts differently. My grandmother my grandmother could talk to the dead, and she was a medium. She was a psychic. She could see the future. But she knew she could feel the demons, but she couldn't see the demons. She could see angels, but that was the extent of her abilities.
Okay. And she was the one, obviously, that groomed you and taught you how to use your abilities.
It was different because when I was about 4.5, 5, how I saw demons changed. Before that, I saw them as most humans do, either a black mass or a black cloud or humanoid type figure that was totally black. But after that, I could see them in their true form, and I was afraid. And Michael came to me and said, "Don't be afraid, because you are seeing them through the eyes of an angel. You see them as we see them in their true form. So I want you to learn from them. I want you to watch them, see what they do, see how they work." When you're a kid, you think, oh, it's a game. Yeah. So that's what I did. And he says, you don't have to worry about them bothering you, because I'll make sure they never bother you, because you're going to need this information when you grow up. So that's what I did.
Can you describe what the true form of a demon is, or do they each have their own unique?
No, mostly they're the same. And the old demons are the smartest and the most powerful of the demons. And all demons kind of look like an archangel. They're 7 feet tall, 12-foot wingspan, but that's where the similarities end, because they're shades of black and gray, and they have almost no features on their face. And the eyes in the old demons are golden. And when you look into the eyes, you see every evil that you've ever, heard of, whatever, thought of, and then some. It's like once you look into the eyes, you'll never be the same again. It's something that you never forget. It's pure evil. And the lesser demons, or the younger ones that are more like hormonal teenagers running around, they're a little bit smaller, but same type of configuration, except for the eyes are red. The eyes are red on them, as well as the minions, the shadow people, the creepy crawly dudes, which they used to call imps in the old days. But they're imps or creepy crawlies, they can make you see them as they want to be perceived in the way like some people see them as thin paper men, some people see them as giant spiders, potatoes, whatever. They can make you see them as they want. All demons can reach into your mind, and they pull out your preconceived image of what you think the demon looks like.
Okay.
And then
That
they will
makes
show
sense.
themselves as that, only they'll magnify that 100-fold to elicit even more fear from you.
Scary stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all really fascinating. I do one initial question. When you were referring to the ones that look like with 7 feet tall wingspan, are you referring to the fallen angels from biblical reference, or is this a different?
Yeah, they're the same, because in the beginning they were all white light beings, and we lived on another planet like eons ago, and that's where basically God found us, and we were a primitive race, and He helped us to get rid of war and famine and disease, and we evolved to the point that our whole goal in life was to amass knowledge, to learn everything that could be learned. And as time went by, we evolved into pure energy. It's a complex form of energy. And once everyone evolved, we traveled as a group. We traveled, billions and trillions of light years, and we saw, planets being formed. We saw black holes. We saw stars going supernova. We saw races being created. It was just, we saw everything. And we traveled like that for hundreds of thousands of years until one day we decided that, you know what? We're tired of this life. We want to be physical again. We would like to have physical form. We would like to have children, know physical love, growing old, that sort of thing. And the division was Lucifer and his followers said, no, this is not what we want. We do not want to be subject to a shell, to growing old, to disease, to pain, suffering. We don't want any of that. So that gave him the perfect excuse to go up against God. And God was not stupid. He knew that it was just a matter of time before Lucifer did, not if, but when. So the war would have lasted 1,000 of our years, but up there's no time. So it probably would be equal to a week.
Wow, that's short.
Yeah, and then when, in the end, Michael disarmed Lucifer and Ariel disarmed his son, and God said, I'm going to give you exactly what you want. You will not ever be able to take on physical form. He said, but you can't live among us. He said, because, there would be problems. So he opened up a rift into a dark realm of existence, and he said, here's where you're going to live. And him and all of his followers were put in there. At first, they were happy about it because, they didn't want to deal with any of that stuff. And Lucifer could be, he could be king in his own little world. Yeah. But over the years, they've grown angry and vengeful. And that's basically why they bother humans, is when the white light soul is in a physical body, it's vulnerable. And so that's why they try to get their own back on the white light souls.
Okay. Interesting. So is that energy what they feed off of, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, they feed off of negative energy like fear, anger, gotcha. Jealousy, any of the negative emotions promote energy that feeds them.
Well, from this version that you're telling me, it sounds to me like demons aren't traditionally what we have been taught they are, which is, something evil, all-encompassing evil. It sounds to me like demons are just on one side of the, of the war, so to speak. They're just a different faction, not necessarily evil. They just wanted to go in another direction.
they are evil because they've become that way. Him and his followers, it would be equal to somebody who's a serial killer.
Mm-hmm. Didn't start out that way,
know?
but became that way.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
became that way because of the dark and the anger and the vengeance that built up inside of them. People don't understand that in each demon there is a little bit of light still there, and 9 times out of 10, when something sparks that light, they will push it down and squelch it because they don't want to deal with it. But every now and then you'll come across one who lets it grow. And I only know 2 of them. And one of them I'll call Herb. He's a good guy. I snapped him back one time, and that's after that he decided, when that spark bloomed, he decided to take it and run. And he came to me one day and he said, I want Ariel to talk to Lucifer. He says, I'd like to be a go-between, a bridge between the living and the darkness. He said, I'd like to help humans if I can. And so Ariel said, okay. She said, I'll go to Lucifer and see if he'll do it or not, if he'll allow it. So I talked to him, and he said that he would have to, talk to the old demons that were, in ruling. And they agreed to let him do that. And from time to time, he'll come to me with a case or information that I need. And we keep that line open. I call him Herb, but that's not his real name. But close enough.
Close enough. And may I ask how this complicated story about who we were and how we evolved and came to be here, how did you learn that? Who told that to you?
In 1988, I died and went to the other side. And my grandparents were there waiting for me. And Michael was there. And he says, you need to understand who and what you are. And I said, yeah, I'm just me. He says, no. He says, you're thinking like a human. You're in your physical mind. And then he touched my forehead. And I saw all the lifetimes I lived, all 130 of them. And he says, look upon yourself. This is who you truly are. And I thought to myself, I don't have a mirror. How can I look upon myself? And then a mirror instantly appeared. And he says, you must understand, thought becomes reality in our realm of existence. And it's the intention behind the thought that gives it power. And it's the same for the dark realm. He says, but look upon yourself. And I looked like him. I was like 7 feet tall, 12-foot wingspan. But I had like long, dark auburn hair and blue-green eyes. And I wore the garb of a warrior. And he says, this is who you truly are. He says, your body was created to hold the soul of Ariel, the archangel, so that she may do the work in the physical realm of existence that we cannot do. And I hadn't a clue who Ariel was. He says, it's time for you to go back. He says, you have much work to do. So I had been hit by a car on my motorcycle.
Oh. And
so I was clinically dead for 2 minutes. And there was a police officer that saw it happen. And he looked really relieved when I opened my eyes. And so I did my research to see who and what Ariel was. And there's not much you can find about her other than her name means Lion of God. And she's one of the 5 that guard the throne of God. But what they don't tell you is she was a demon slayer. She was a part of an elite group called the Legion of Light. It was created before the war between heaven and hell because God knew that it was a matter of when, not if, that Lucifer would pull something. So the Legion trains all warrior angels. That's part of their job. But the Legion is made up of Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Ariel. So I actually can hear her thoughts, and I know what I can see through her eyes. So I know when there's a demon present, I know what it is. I know where it comes from. I know why it was attracted to the individual. I know everything about it. I can actually look into its mind.
So you are the physical manifestation of her?
Of Ariel, yeah. People
Okay.
say they see, when she comes forward, people say that there are wings coming out of my shoulders, and my eyes turn white, and my voice and my face changes.
So when you do visualize or see these demons, is there any interaction between you and them on your part? I'm just thinking.
I see them. I see what, like, I'll have somebody, they'll send me an email saying, there's something going on. I have an attachment or whatever, and I'll tell them to send me a picture. Mm-hmm. And once they send me a picture, I can see what's there and what isn't there. And so I can see it without it seeing me.
So you don't have to be physically present.
No.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I've done it as far away as Netherlands, Australia,
Wow.
Spain. I don't have to be present because they fight. Ariel fights them in a whole other plane of existence. Mm. So it's like, it would be like caught between human world and the angelic world. It's that, that veil in between there where they fight. Okay. And she's really good at killing them, and she enjoys it.
Got it.
Now, when you say killing them, from what I'm, and please correct me if I'm wrong on this, but from what you said earlier, it sounds to me like reincarnation is what happens to our souls. I don't know if I'm using the correct terminology.
Soul, yeah, white light souls can reincarnate, but if a demonic soul gets sliced through with, what they do is they basically have a hand-to-hand type of battle. Mm-hmm. It is literally spiritual warfare.
Okay.
And the dark ones use the dark swords, and the white light people use the white light swords. And if the angel cuts through the demon with the sword, they actually just disintegrate. The first time I saw it, I thought, oh, that's cool. Yeah. Because the molecules go up and spread among the stars. So they cannot reincarnate. Mm. When they're dead, they're dead.
They're dead. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what makes the light so special that they can reincarnate and the demons can't?
It's when Lucifer and his followers were put in the dark realm, it changed them energetically. So they no longer have the ability to reincarnate.
Okay.
The dark realm just took that away from them.
But unless they, I don't mean to cut you off, but unless they are physically killed, they will live forever.
What?
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's why, it used to be in the old days, Ariel says, they used to send them back into the dark. But the problem with that is they just come back again. They just find another way to come back again and cause more problems. Mm. So God said one day, I'm tired of this. Lucifer was right. I am too lenient. He said, no more. He says, from this moment on, you will kill them. So that's what we've been doing. That's what I've been doing this lifetime.
I'm curious to have your take as far as what you're able to do and as far as what like a Catholic exorcist is able to do, and maybe like.
Yeah, I asked Michael about that one time. I said, Michael, so why does it take me a minute, maybe 2 minutes to remove a demon and kill it? And I said, why does it take the Catholic Church, the priest, some can take years.
Yeah.
Years, months, weeks, days. And he said, because it's very simple. He says, they have doubt. If they have any doubt in what they're doing, in the fact that can they do it, in faith in themselves, faith in God, and faith in, the what they use, their way of doing it,
Mm-hmm.
then they're going to fail.
Interesting.
They're going to keep failing. He says, that's the difference. He says, you have no doubt. You have no fear of them either. You can't have a fear of the dark ones because it's a weakness.
Yeah.
And they'll use it against you. People always ask me, well, aren't you afraid? I said, no. Why should I be afraid? I have no fear of them. I know what I can do. And I know that I'm good at it. And I have no doubt in what I can do. And I have all the faith in the world in God.
And what kind of training did your grandmother put you through in order to be able to get you to where you're at now?
See, my grandmother died when I was 18, just long enough for me to see me get in the military. And so all I learned from her was what she could teach me, which was, animal communication, which I already was doing anyway. Mm-hmm. The ability to tell good from bad in spirit, as well as demons versus angels, and the ability to communicate with angels and souls that need help, earthbound spirits. That's all that she could. Her teachings were very limited. Mm-hmm. It was Michael and Gabriel and Raphael that taught me the rest, and Ariel.
She taught you enough to where you could be able to get in touch with them, so to speak, and then
once I died and went to the other side, Michael did what he called a merge, where he merged the soul consciousness with the physical consciousness. That's why I can see through her eyes. When I look with human eyes, I see a bed, I see a chair, I see a lamp, I see a tree. Huh? When I look with angelic eyes, I don't see any of that. I see the energy that creates the objects or the person or the tree.
And is this...
So it's vastly different.
Is this the ability to look through different lenses? Is that something that you can control and have the ability to do at will, or does it just happen?
Yeah. No, I can do it at will.
You can do it at will?
It's just like switching off, going from, putting on a pair of glasses, putting on a pair of sunglasses, whatever.
Okay.
It's just, if I think it happens. Mm. And that's because of the merge. If I hadn't been interconnected with her so well, it probably wouldn't be able to do it that easily.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But because I've always been in connection with her my entire life, from the time I was born on, it wasn't hard to achieve.
I was listening to a kind of, just to go back to my Catholic perspective. I was listening to an interview with a Catholic exorcist the other week, and he was talking about how he's had a couple experiences where he claimed that he had come across the devil incarnate. Have you had any sort of experiences like that, or is it more of sort of you being able to seek them out?
Well, it's like, I'll give you an example. I did a show with Clyde Lewis called Ground Zero. Mm-hmm. And it was a 4-hour special on me. And I had, in the first 2 days, I had over 200 requests for help.
Okay.
But one of those was a woman who said that she said that she was possessed. And I'm like, okay, I said, send me a picture, because, there are those people out there. But, so she sent me a picture, and I'm like, oh, crap. Yeah. Well, I have a friend that's an ordained minister. And I have another friend that goes with me to, on Ghosts and Girls Paranormal. We kind of investigate. We stick to the negative stuff. Mm-hmm. But I told my friend Aaron, the ordained minister, I said, listen, God said you need to come with me. I said, because you fear the dark ones, and you can't fear the dark ones and serve him. So you need to come, and you have to know that this is an exorcism. He had never been to one before, or in on one, and my friend hadn't either. I said, you need to prepare. I said, you're going to need to pray and prepare. I said, because this isn't going to be easy because this woman has 11 entities within her.
Wow.
And they're like, oh, crap. So we get there. I knock on the door, apartment door, and the woman answers, but she's not in control. It's the demon that's in control.
Mm-hmm.
She said, go away, bitch, in Aramaic.
Ooh.
My brain is hardwired to interpret Aramaic. So, and then she slams the door. My friends are looking at each other like, what just happened? I'm like, don't worry about it. Knock on the door again. This time she was in control. We went inside, and I talked to her, and I told her what I was going to do, that I was going to remove the demons that were possessing her. So it took the longest I've ever had. Ariel was out for almost 2.5 hours. And she's never been out for that long before, because it's never taken that long. But then we've never had 11 of them at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a lot.
So we get down to the last one. And I told it, I said, you need to come out of there. I said, that's it. You need to come out. And it refused. And I looked into its mind, and I saw that it was hiding within this woman. It was hiding from Lucifer. It had been given a job to do by Lucifer, and it just blew him off. Didn't bother to do it. Just whatever. And I said, if you want to go home, I said, I will ask Jesus if he will take you home. And the demon's like, I can't go home. I said, yes, you can. If you're truly repentant, I said, you can go home. I said, but you're going to have to answer for what you've done. He looked doubtful, and I said, Jesus, come forth. And my friends are standing in front of me, and this huge white arm came out with its hand towards the woman and the demon. And the demon looked like it was going to take the hand, but then he goes, no, you're lying, I can't go back. So Jesus withdrew his hand, and my friends are like freaking out. And then I said, okay, Lucifer, I said, come forth. And dark figure appear in the hallway, at the end of the hallway, and walked towards a dark figure in like a fedora and double-breasted suit and spats. Wow. That's how they perceived him.
Okay.
So it's like the Hat Man.
I saw him. Yeah, I saw him in his true image.
Yeah.
And Lucifer came forward and said, he told him to come with him, and he refused. The demon refused. And Lucifer looked at me and said, I know you don't want me to harm the woman, so I will be back for him tonight. And Ariel bowed to him, and he bowed back, and he walked down the hallway and disappeared. And I told her, I said, don't worry about it. They're all gone but one. I said, and he'll come back and get it tonight, so you don't have to worry about that. So we all went home. My friends are freaking out, and I just have to laugh at them. I told them, I said, listen, I bet you didn't know I moved in such exalted circles, did you? I started laughing. They started laughing. And so we all went home, and we all woke up at 3 a.m. in our respective beds and heard Lucifer say, it's done.
Wow.
So I called her the nect day, and I advised, she said, I haven't felt like this in over 20 years. She said, I feel empty. I said, please get counseling. I said, you're going to have PTSD with this. So last I knew, which was a couple of years ago, she was still in counseling. So it's a good thing.
Oh, wow. Good for her.
But it's one of those things where, that's not something you see every day.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. That is wild. Just kind of a follow-up question. As far as certain mental illnesses are concerned, are there entities behind? Because I know some people have theorized that certain mental illnesses carry an entity behind them, or
some do, and a lot of them though will have the beginnings, or they have a little bit of the mental illness, and this will attract the demon.
Okay.
So the demon will amplify this.
They're an easier target? Yeah. Is that what
right.
it is?
Make
okay.
An easier target, and they will amplify what the person already has and make it 10 times worse. So it's, so it really is an attraction for them. That lack of faith, substance abuse, being, physical abuse by others, growing up in an abusive situation or living in an abusive situation. All of these things are, attractive to demons and chaos. They love chaos.
That stands to reason.
They just love.
So, June, how did you get involved with your paranormal investigation group? What made you decide to start? I'm assuming you're the one that started that up. I've looked at your website and read through it a couple of times. So I'm interested to know what prompted you to do that, because it seems like it's not necessarily always the same thing as going against demons.
Right. And the thing is, I've always been, ever since I got out of the military back in 81, I've been helping people with their paranormal issues by word of mouth forever and ever. And Aaron, my friend that's the ordained minister, he had a group, and he was having a Halloween special. And so I went to his Halloween special. I thought that'd be cool for Halloween,
Yeah.
So he had a show called Paranormal Crossings, and he wanted me to be on the show. He wanted to interview me on the show before he knew what I did. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay. And he said, come on, talk about angels or whatever. And I'm like, no, I'll talk about negatives. So we did an interview. He did 2 interviews, one with another person and then me right after that. And he always records his on the studio computer, as well as his Blu-ray and some other different formats. Mm-hmm. So we did the interview, and I kept waiting for it to come online. It was supposed to be on the local channel, and I kept waiting, and finally I said to him, I said, what's up with that? I said, where's the interview? I said, I have friends that want to watch it. And he says, I know you're not going to believe this. He says, but there is no interview. He says, it disappeared. Oh. It wasn't on the studio one. It wasn't on my Blu-ray. It wasn't on any of the other formats I recorded everything on. The other woman's was, but yours is like it never existed.
Dang.
He thought I would be mad. I just started laughing. I said, you don't understand. I deal with the dark ones. I said, that's normal. He said, will you come on again? I said, yeah, I'll come on. This time I'll ask Michael to be come into the earth realm with me, so he'll protect. So we do the second interview, and about 30 minutes into the interview, the hostess, the other host, she's commented, she says, the cold air's been blowing on me this entire time, and suddenly I felt a break in the air, because I asked Michael to come and stand behind us, and they asked if they could see Michael. I said, yeah, I'll have him come stand behind us. And just when I said that, this is what she commented on. She said, it's like I saw this huge wing. I got this person with this huge wing. And then Michael stood behind Aaron, and in the monitor that we watch when you're on the show, you could see Michael's reflection.
Wow.
But you couldn't see it in the film. Mm. But if you listen shortly after that, after the 30-minute, you'll hear a scream, a demon scream, because I felt the demon come into the studio. It was following, whenever Michael's in the physical world, there are souls that come because they want to go home. Mm. So this demon just followed the souls, like, what's going on? And Michael wrapped his wing around the demon and sent him back into the dark realm. And as he does that, you can hear the scream.
Ooh, dang!
So people are like freaking out.
Yeah, that's.
I've caught a lot of demons screaming. They don't like me for some reason. Mm-hmm. I've got a lot of recordings of that.
And So after that, was that what prompted you to get into the more of the paranormal
Yeah,
investigation?
he asked me if I would join his group.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. So I was a member of his group. I still am sort of a member of his group, but I told him, I said, most of the people in his group don't, in fact, 99.9% of them don't deal with the darkness and don't want to deal with the darkness. So that's why I formed my own group, 2-person group called Ghosts and Girls Paranormal.
Okay.
Because we deal strictly with negative entity issues. Because it's not for everyone. And I'm not going to involve people in what I do if they can't hack it.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I'm
Totally
not going to
understood.
take that chance of them, having an issue. So I basically separated myself for that part of it.
Now, the other person that's with you in your group, is she also a medium?
She is. She's more empathic
Okay.
than anything. She doesn't see demons in the way I do. She just sees them like when you're driving down a road and it's really hot and you get those wavy lines when there's a mirage, you get the heat come off.
Yeah.
That's what she sees the little creepy crawlies as.
Okay.
But she can't do anything with them. She just knows that they're there. But she is, like I said, she's very empathic, and she does a lot with the clients, because when I'm called in person on a case, I know the minute I get there where the demon is. And I don't really talk much, because I head directly to where the demon is. And she has to talk to the clients and let them know what I'm doing and why I'm doing that and stuff like that.
Got it.
She's very good at that sort of thing. And I'm too focused on killing the demons.
Yeah. Is there any difference between what we consider to be ghosts and what it is that you see as far as the beings of light and the beings of darkness?
Oh yeah, the earthbound spirits, ghosts are souls, white light souls, that are caught between our world and crossing over. And the angels are on a higher vibrational plane of existence.
Okay.
So they're totally different. I mean, they can travel, the white light beings can travel into the dark realm as well. If there's an archangel can, let's put it that way. An archangel can travel into the dark realm if they need to. But an earthbound cannot. And the earthbound, some people don't know that a demon will utilize an earthbound in locations where they can't get into. Say somebody, I created a black salt that was, it's a special one. It's got an Ariel's energy in it. God gave me the recipe for it and said, I want you to give this to the people so that they can protect themselves with it. Mm-hmm. And so if they lay down the black salt around their house, the demons can't get into it. But they can send a human spirit in, under their control, to either give the person a bad dream or to cause physical harm, that sort of thing, even though they don't want to do it. They have no control over it because the demons are in charge.
Right. And trying to figure out how I want to ask this. So the earthbound spirits that are here, that are trapped. So
right.
Basically they're like in purgatory, I guess is the way I'm kind of looking at it. But
well, they're not really in purgatory. It's just they're caught and they don't know how to get to.
They don't know how.
Sometimes it happens where, say, the person will die traumatically and quickly. And they'll die so quickly that basically they don't know where the heck they are.
Right.
I had one guy that he died of a major heart attack, and he went into what's equal to shock in the human world. If you were a human, you'd say you're in shock. Everything goes black. You pass out. Well, the same thing. Everything went black when he woke up. His daughter-in-law and son were walking through his house, talking about renting the house out, and he didn't know he was dead. And so he was trying to get their attention and everything. Once he realized he was dead, then he's kind of stuck there. He didn't know how to get, because he missed the light. What happens is a tunnel opens up into a white light tunnel, and they just walk into it, and they're transported right into the heavenly realm. But if they miss that tunnel, they either have to find somebody who can create one for them and help them cross, or they get stuck. So all you have to do really is create a white light tunnel in your mind. Remember, thought becomes reality. You create the white light tunnel and you tell them telepathically, run, do not walk into the light, and you'll go home. And 99.9% of the time, they'll just go home. They just want somebody to help them.
But where I was headed with my question is, how do you explain the residual repeated hauntings, like where a traumatic event has taken place, like the classic Civil War thing, where
like a loop.
Where you know her husband went off to war, and she went to the window every day to wait for his return, and he never came back because he died, and then that haunting repeats itself. So can you explain that?
That's simple. Yeah, that's simple, because sometimes when a person dies, they will notice the change of time. They will notice the progression of time. They'll see it happening. And then you'll have other ones that become stuck in their own time zone, in their own time frame. And they never progress. They never see the change of time. To them, the house is the same. This is their house. They live there. It's not modernized. They see it as it was when they were alive. So this continues. She relives that over and over again, because she's stuck in her own time. If she were to let go of that, she would see the progression of time. But a lot of them are so entrenched in their time
good
info.
So if you were listening to this and you feel like
because they don't know any other way,
dark
they're
energy
stuck,
attached
like
to you,
like
just
in a
take
loop.
her advice, and then
and
look
they're
up
living
Joan
the same
Lundgren,
moment over and over and over again.
demonseer.com, and she'll be able to give you a hand and help. So
but you can help them. FYI.
So they're like frozen, basically frozen in time
as a nurse.
So to speak.
So I get to when if you have a nice, if you have an 1800 house,
thanks for
and you modernize it to
last question.
They don't
going
see
back
any of that
to
modernization.
you said I died in
house.
Auschwitz. Is that what you said?
Yep.
That's
why they'll walk through walls where there used to be a door, or go upstairs where there's no stairs anymore.
I'm going to look
at the young man dying.
And I was 27. That's very interesting.
27.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yes,
Okay.
it does. Makes sense.
28.
So I had mentioned.
I'm going to look this up.
Switch gears a little bit.
I'm definitely going to get
I
you
had
back
mentioned,
on the podcast, and we're going to be talking. We're going to explore this one a little bit further.
Being a
yeah, it's a lot of things people don't understand. Their past lives still hang around.
Forgive me if I'm not using them.
Thank you very much for appearing
I'm
on the
just an
podcast,
animal
everybody.
communicator.
Animal
Lundgren.
communicator. There we go.
Find her at
So
demonseer.com.
tell me a little bit.
If you have any questions or you need help, that's how you can get in touch with her on her contact page.
The last 15
Thanks
minutes.
once again for being on the podcast.
Tell me a little
Ms.
bit
Lundgren,
about
and,
that. What that is like.
Hang around after I close things
are you
out, and
able
we'll talk offline here just for a minute. Okay.
Communicate.
We're ready.
All right. I'm going to put you
I
on.
find that very fascinating.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of cool because I have friends that are animal communicators. I have one that lives in Eastern Oregon, and she communicates. She gets images from animals.
Okay.
And my other friend gets like emotions, energy, feelings, and sometimes she'll get, like a video clip. But I sit down and have a conversation with them like I'm having with you right now. I mean, once they get over that first initial shock of being able to hear me, to understand me, then it's all on there. There's like, I'd like to have this, and I'm tired of that, and my owner is so is full of so much energy, or she's having so much anxiety, and I don't know how to help her, so that's why I'm nipping at her. And so you just relay the information to the person that has the animal. And it's like I have people that say, well, my dog's having this issue, or they're not getting along well with my grandson or my granddaughter or my husband or whatever. So then I have to sit down and I have to talk to the animal. As long as I got a picture, I'm okay. And I have to tell them, this is what's going on. This is not acceptable. You cannot do that. You just have to you don't tell them what to do. You just sit down and have a conversation with them. Like I would with you, say, really, that's not working. We shouldn't really do that. Let's try something else, because I don't like to tell them what to do. Yeah. That's not right. I mean, I wouldn't want somebody coming and tell me that. So you have to have respect for the animals, just like I have respect for those who crossed over,
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's it.
Okay. So does the animal have to be alive in order for you to communicate with it, or are you able to? You're able to communicate after they go. So are they made up of the same stuff that we are? They're beings of light.
Yeah. Oh yeah. See, the thing is, people believe that an animal's an animal and they can't be a human, but that's wrong. They can come back as a human. They could come back as a fish. They could come back as a dog. They can come back as whatever they want. We're all complex energy. And a lot of them choose to come back as animals. It's like my Springer. I just lost her last August after she was 15 years old. And that was her third incarnation.
Wow.
And now I'm waiting for her to come back again. I always find her. She always tells me when she's coming back. So I always end up finding them.
Nice. Wow. That kind of gave me the goosies right there.
I know, right? Yes. Yeah. Is that, I'm just curious, is that unique from person to person? I mean, do we all, obviously some people I guess don't recognize it, but do we all find those repeated souls? Yeah.
Yeah, we do. If you love them and they love you, then they'll come back to you. And it's just a matter of, and you don't even realize it, but you'll find them because they'll guide you there. It's like all of a sudden you see something ad, or you see a newspaper classified ad or something, or somebody talks about something. They know how to get you to them. Just because, like the one right now, my Springer has been reborn. So now I'm just waiting for the connection to be formed. I know when she's reborn, but that doesn't mean she can't still communicate with me, because I can still communicate with her soul. So it's just a matter of, they move you in the right place at the right time so that you can find each other.
And the way that you can communicate with them, like I'm just going to use myself as an example. Okay. So I had a couple of beloved dogs that died several years apart. My last one died very traumatically on St. Patrick's Day a year ago.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to know something about them, would I have to send you a picture? Would I have to email you a picture?
Yeah, just email me a picture. Yeah.
That would be awesome. If
a picture, questions, whatever you want to know. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm going to take you up on that, because I would really like to know. I have questions. I have so many questions.
Well, they're both going to come back. They're like, "We're coming back.
Yeah.
Tell me we're coming back." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, that's very comforting to know.
News,
yeah, that's very, very comforting to know. And so when they come back, I guess not just them, but we all have that ability to come back, right? So we're all reincarnated. So are there ever instances of when, if I am, obviously this is probably not my first life, right? But are there ever instances where I can remember my past? Is that is that supposed to happen? Is that a fluke? How does that?
No, you can. You can. It's just a matter of, sitting down and talking to your soul. If you can make the connection to your soul, then you can see your past lives. You can see everything that happened. It won't be in detail, but you can. It's like, okay, my husband is one of those people. If you can't touch it, feel it, or see it, it doesn't exist. And what do you know? He's married to me. But he's an auditor. That's what he does for a living. So he's very left-brained. So, but it's like he had a dream. This was about 10 years ago. He had a dream. And in the dream, he was on board the Arizona, and he was walking through water like you walk through air. They were in the rec room, which is below deck. So the big topic of conversation is, why didn't they come for us? They entombed those men. They never got their bodies out.
Right.
And he says, and the next thing I know, I'm up on board. I'm up on the monument. I'm running my finger down, and I find my name, and I wake up.
Ooh.
And he said, I had this dream 3 nights in a row, exactly the same.
Wow.
So he says, get me a list of the men that died on the Arizona. There's 18 pages of men that died on the Arizona.
Geez.
So on page 13, he comes and he says, this is it. This is who I was. I look at the name, and the name is Raymond Arthur Roby. He says, this is who I was. Now, like I said, this is a man who can't touch it, feel, or see it. Doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. He's like, this was me. He's always had an absolute fear of drowning and never even had a slip in the bathtub as a baby. Never.
Wow.
So
now you know where that comes from.
Yeah. So I told him, I said, that's where that comes from.
Yeah.
And I named my son after my grandfather, Ray Arthur.
Okay.
So no coincidence. No such thing as coincidence.
Wow.
Dang. That is fascinating.
That is really, wow. Yeah. That's.
So these things can hold over.
Mm-hmm.
People with unsubstantiated fears of drowning, fears of heights, fears of buses, fears of snakes. These are all because they died in that manner in a previous lifetime.
I have heard that before. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've seen all 130 of my lifetime, and they're not so good.
Mm-hmm.
Always had some really bad death.
Yeah.
I was strangled to death in 1942 was the last one.
Dang.
I was burned as a witch in Salem. I was hung as a witch in England, which I've been to the place where I was hung.
Wow.
And it's like, oh, deja vu. Okay.
Yeah, that's another thing that I was kind of going to talk to you about, is that feelings of deja vu. Is that kind of like us remembering something that happened?
Little snippets, yeah.
Yeah. We just got to train our minds.
Mm-hmm. To be open and to listen. Yeah, it's quite simple. I do that for a lot of people. I can tell them their past lives. Usually it's the lifetimes that have made the most impact in their succession of lives.
Wow.
But like my friend that's the minister, it's like, he's like, I've always had this back pain. Nobody knows where it comes from. It's L5S1. I looked at him and I said, you're a centurion in Rome, and you were speared there in L5S1. Is that where your pain is? And he said, yes, that's where my pain is.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, well, there you go.
How about that?
Man.
Yeah.
He says, I've always had a fascination with Rome. I said, yeah, well, there you go.
Well, there you go. Okay, so maybe, now that kind of scares me, because I have always had a fascination, and Eric knows where I'm going with this. I can see the look on your face. And I don't want this to sound the wrong way, okay? So I'm just going to say it.
It won't.
Yeah, right. So
get it out.
I have always had, since I was a child, I've always had a fascination with the Nazi Germany era of how Adolf Hitler, one man, could take basically a whole entire nation and hypnotize this whole entire nation into bowing to his will, and along with that, how they were able to create a whole, like, just false history in everything of what Germany was. So
there were demons, old demons, attached to Goering, Rommel, and Hitler.
Well, that I totally believe, but
because Ariel, Michael, and Gabriel removed them. Usually, Hitler made sure that never did they have all of his generals, all of his commanders, in one meeting in any one location.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there was one time when it happened, and that's when the archangels killed the demons that were attached to each of them. It was right after that Nazi Germany started losing.
Wow.
if you don't have the support of the demons, you're not going to get it.
Mm-hmm. Well, what concerns me was could I have been a Nazi in a previous life?
No, actually, you were killed in Auschwitz.
Oh.
At the age of 27.
Well, that's the other side to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, supposedly there, I do have some Jewish heritage somewhere in my family. I mean, if you could look at my big schnoz, that's the first sign. But yeah, I've been told by my biological father's side of the family that there's supposedly some Jewish heritage in us somehow.
Name was Heinrich SCHWATZ.
Oh, wait. I have to write this down. Hang on. Let me get a pen. Wait a minute. Where's a pen when I need one? Holy crap. Okay. All right. Say that again.
Henrich is the first name.
Uh-huh.
SCHWATZ.
SCHWATZ?
Yeah.
SCHWATZ.
That was the name you had in that lifetime.
Okay. I'm going to see if I can look some stuff up on this. This is fascinating. Oh my God. I'm going to have to get you back on. I would love to have you. I would love to do some research on this, and then let's follow up on this one day and have you back on the podcast. What do you say?
Yeah, that's cool. I'm headed for England Friday, so I'll be gone till the end of the month.
Oh gosh, I love England. I would love to live over there. I've been there a couple of times. I would love to live there. My wife just won't let me.
Great climate. Great climate.
I'm going to the Isle of Wight for a week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Then I'm flying to Glasgow to see friends.
Very jealous. Very jealous.
That will be fun.
You have a good and safe trip, and I really appreciate you being on the podcast. I've been looking forward to this for a little while now.
Oh no! Oh.
And everybody, this is June Lundgren. June, can you please, in case people who are listening to this podcast, if they need to get in touch with you, if they have questions, if they need help, tell us how we can have my listeners get in touch with you in case they need help.
You can go to my website, demonseer.com, and there's a contact page. I also do intuitive readings, and I do mentor people as well. So you can find everything on that page. I'm also on Facebook under June Lundgren.
And that's Lundgren. Lundgren.
Yep.
Okay. And it's demonseer.com.
All one word. Yeah. Demonseer.com. Yeah.
And one final question before we run completely out of time here, June. If someone if they suspect that they have some sort of dark energy or dark entity attached to them, they're feeling like they're being attacked or drained or have this thing attached to them, what is the best way until they can find someone such as yourself? What is the best way that they may be able to protect themselves until they're able to find someone who can help them?
There are a few things that'll really protect you. That's the problem. You have things that will like kick them out of your house, but not keep them gone forever. You can take, if you think the entity is in your house, first thing I would tell you is never sage, because if you sage and the entity is in your home, it will ramp things up like you wouldn't believe. Because it lets them know that they're there, and B, you're trying to get rid of them, so that pisses them off.
And the same thing goes with Palo. Gosh, what's the name of the wood?
I'm not sure.
Oh God, the wood that you burn. Palo Santo. Palo Santo wood.
Palo Santo. Yeah, they won't do a thing. They just laugh at that.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll laugh, and then they'll get pissed.
Great.
But the best thing is to take some holy water, anointing oil, as long as it's not in your home, and just seal your windows and doors, make the sign of the cross, over the windows and doors and ask for God's protection. And you can also, they don't like it when you say in God's name, be gone, or rebuke them. They don't like that either. But if you've got an attachment, there's not much that can help you except somebody that can remove it. I do, in my new book, Demon Seer, The Awakening, there is a chapter on how to help yourself and where to find help. And the Johnson brothers, Keith and his brother, they're in there. Their connection stuff is in there.
Mm-hmm.
Raphael, Order of St. Michael of Exorcists, his connection stuff's in there. I've got a lot of people that they wanted to be in the book so that they could help.
Okay,
so
that's
you
great.
Can find help in there as well.
Great news. Good info. So if you are listening to this and you feel like you have some sort of dark energy attached to you, just take her advice and then look up Joan Lundgren, demonseer.com, and she'll be able to give you a hand and help you out.
Yeah, I just want to FYI, I'm working 60 hours a week as a nurse, so
I know the feeling.
So I get to you when I can get to you.
Yeah. I know the feeling. Yeah, thanks for putting that out there. Last question. Going back to you said I died in Auschwitz. Is that what you said?
Yep.
And what year? Do you know?
I don't know the year. I just can see it. I can see the camp, and I can see.
I'm gonna look.
You, the young man, dying.
And I was 27.
27.
Yeah.
Okay.
You never reached 28.
I'm going to look this up, and I'm definitely going to get you back on the podcast, and we're going to explore this one a little bit further.
Yeah, it's a lot of things people don't understand. Their past lives still hang around.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for appearing on the podcast, everybody. June Lundgren, you can find her at demonseer.com. If you have any questions or you need help, that's how you can get in touch with her on her contact page. Thanks once again for being on the podcast, Miss Lundgren, and hang around after I close things out, and we'll talk offline here just for a minute, okay?
Okay. We're ready.
All right, I'm going to put you on hold here real quick, okay?
Okay.
All right. All right, everybody. That was it.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we'll record the rest of it later. Well, that about does it for tonight's episode of ParaReality. I'd love to hear what you think about the episode, so drop me a line at sandman@parareality.com. That's the quickest and easiest way you can get in touch with me here at the show. I'd love to hear your thoughts or comments about what you heard this evening. Email address, once again, is sandman@parareality.com. And speaking of ways to get in contact with me, I'm all over social media. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/sandman.parareality. That's the official Facebook page for the podcast, or you can just do a Facebook search for a ParaReality podcast. You can post a message on my wall, slide into my DMs right there. Sometimes it takes me a day or two to get back in touch with you. So if I don't get, you don't get a response from me really quickly, don't worry. Sometimes it just, life happens and you're busy with stuff. And sometimes it may take me a minute, but I do respond to every Facebook DM that I get. Speaking of DMs, if you've got Twitter or Instagram, you can follow me on both of those. My username, my handle on Twitter and Instagram, same thing, ParaReal Radio. That's at ParaReal Radio. You can always find out what's going on in the world of ParaReality by following me on my social media accounts. And like I said, you don't want to get me on Facebook, you want to get me on Twitter or Instagram, you can just slide me a DM right there at ParaReal Radio on both Twitter and Instagram. Or if you want to call and leave me a comment, not just about this episode, but about anything, maybe you want to say, hey, I love your show, or maybe you want to say, hey, I've got an idea for a topic, or maybe you think I suck and you just want to tell me, or maybe you've had some sort of weird encounter that you can't explain and you want to tell me about it. Well, you can always call me on the studio line. I got a direct line right here to the podcast. It comes right into the secret bunker. The number is area code 615-692-1170. That number to call once again is 615-692-1170. Just leave me a message, but I want you to remember this though. If you do leave me a message, you are giving me permission to play your comment back on the podcast. So if you don't want that to happen, you'll need to let me know somewhere in your message. Now, I'm always looking for interesting stories for the podcast, so if you got a story that you'd like to tell, call me up, 615-692-1170. Leave a message on the voicemail. There's about a 3-minute time limit on that voicemail, so if you run out of time, call back, pick up where you left off. And I also want you to know I do not give out names or contact information or anything like that on the voicemail whenever I play it back on the podcast. So if you leave your full name, I won't broadcast that last name out. I'll just do a first name only. I will not broadcast your contact information unless you give me permission to do all that. So don't worry about you calling up and me revealing any of your personal info. If you do happen to leave any of that, I won't do that, so don't worry about it. So like I said, give me a call, 615-692-1170. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/sandman.parareality. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at ParaRealRadio. And don't forget to visit my website, ParaReality.com. That's a place where you can keep up with all of the latest paranormal news from all around the world. I've got an entire page of the website devoted to weird news, and the content is updated almost daily. You can also shop in the ParaReality store, watch some of the terrible videos that I've made for the podcast over the years, and even listen to some of your favorite episodes in the archives section of the podcast. I've got tons of audio on the website from all kinds of variations of ParaReality that I've had over the years, even back when I was doing terrestrial radio on WRFN out of Pasquo, Tennessee. I've got several of my episodes from that on the podcast, and everything is free. So if you've got a favorite episode, or if you want to just peruse through and see what you can find, feel free, go ahead, go to the archive section of ParaReality.com and just knock yourself out. I'll never charge for any of that content. Speaking of content, ParaReality can be heard on your favorite podcast station. Just do a search for ParaReality. If you got a smart speaker, you can listen there too. If you got any of these podcast skills on your device, just say, hey, play the ParaReality podcast. And I also have a YouTube channel, and you can listen to the podcast there too. I upload all the audio of every podcast to my YouTube page. And it's also got some great videos like UFO and paranormal documentaries. Sometimes I would do a little news segment called News of the Strange. It's got some terrible show videos I've done over the years. It's got some chemtrail videos. You know, I'm a big chemtrail conspiracy theorist. It's full of all kinds of stuff. That's where you can find all the video content. Now, sometimes I do video the podcast, but you know, I think it's great for people who have a podcast that's big enough that they can do video, and you know, they have all of this fancy equipment where they just you know, do camera switches back and forth and stuff like that, so you can see them sit there and talk. But you know, really, I don't see, this is a podcast which is audio, and I don't see the need to always do a lot of video for the podcast where you're just looking at me sitting behind a microphone with a pair of headphones on talking to no one. That doesn't seem like it's something that would interest a whole lot of people, but every once in a while I will do a video just to put up there. But I've got all kinds of stuff for you guys to check out. So make sure that you go to youtube.com/user/ParaReality1. That's the number 1 on the end of ParaReality. The next episode of ParaReality is going to drop on Friday, July the 6th at 8 o'clock p.m. Central U.S. time, so make sure you turn on, tune in, and find out. I hope that this podcast opens up your mind in new ways of thinking, expands your consciousness, and produces a change in the way you see the world. If you wish to change, you must lift the veil of ignorance that has been cast over your eyes. Only then will you see the true power of the universe. Hope you have a wonderful evening, a great weekend, and I will see you again in July.
If you wish to change, you must first lift the veil of ignorance that has been cast over your eyes. Only then will you see the true power of the universe.